today I'm going to share with you some thoughts, some life experiences on the topic of bitterness. Bitterness, such a bitter taste in your mouth, such a bitter taste. You know, the people of Israel many years ago became very bitter. Now, I guess when you're in captivity for 400 years and you're asking God to come and rescue you and it's not happening, I guess that disappointment can turn into bitterness. And then they get rescued. And they get rescued not just, the doors are opened and out you go. They get rescued by Moses coming along and through God's mighty hand using him, 10 plagues are sent to Pharaoh and the land and the people there to try and get Pharaoh to say, okay, get rid of them, just let them go. And eventually he does. And you know the story of that. Then Pharaoh changes his mind because he realizes, oh my goodness, my servants, my slaves are now gone, my workforce. And so he sends the army after Moses and all the people. But they cross the Red Sea, and God's mighty hand again comes down through Moses, and these waters of the Red Sea are parted, and the people get through, and they're rescued again, saved again by God, to continue their walk to the promised land. And as they're travelling, they go through the desert. After 3 days' walk in the hot sun, they're thirsty. We'd all be. You know, it's not like they carried their little water bottles along and had them sip, sip, sip and could fill them up at taps whenever they wanted. But they're thirsty. And they finally come to a place where there is water. And this is in Exodus 15. And they finally come to a place where there's water. And I'll read it to you. Moses ordered Israel to set out from the Red Sea, and they went into the wilderness of Shur. They went 3 days in the wilderness and found no water. When they came to Marah, they could not drink the water of Marah because it was bitter. That is why it was called Marah, because bitter, or Marah means bitter, bitterness. And the people complained against Moses. Let's just stop there for a second. So you're walking along and you have no water and you're dying of thirst. I know that after 3 days you'd be very thirsty. You're not necessarily dying yet, but you feel like it, because the body can be okay for a while. But you're in the hot, sweltering sun, 30, 40 degrees Celsius. What would that be? 90, 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Oh my goodness, this is so hot. I'm sweating. So you're actually sweating out the water that's within you, the water droplets. And then you finally come to where there is water and you taste it and it's bitter. Oh, yuck. Great, God. And the people, it says, turned against Moses. Now, I know Moses was God's way that God worked through him, a man following God, doing God's work. But they turned against Moses. What is with this? Was it Moses who turned the water to being bitter? No. But they got so disappointed that they also started to become bitter themselves. So this water is not just a symbol of, with bitter water, but a symbol of the heart of these Israelites starting to turn bitter because of disappointment. But think back, were they not grateful? They've already been rescued, gone through the Red Sea, rescued again, and they're not grateful? We've finally been asking, God, help us, help us, help us, get us out of this place. And they're not grateful? If we're not careful in life, our disappointments can turn into bitterness. And we attack anybody, not even the person to blame as such, might be our blame, but we complain about to anybody. Think about it. You've been looking for a job for so long, and everything is no. Everything, oh, you're good, but no. You can become bitter. You have a boyfriend, and you've been going out with him quite a while, and then he goes, don't think this is us. You can become bitter. You go studying really, really, really hard, and you're trying so much to get into this course that you want to get into, and it just doesn't happen after all these years of effort. You can become bitter. You try out for the basketball team, and you're doing the trial outs, and you're doing the training, and you're going all the time, doing what the coach says, and you still don't get chosen. You can become bitter. Your marriage isn't doing well, it's not what I really thought it was going to be like. And disappointment after disappointment after disappointment on both sides, on one side, on whatever, you can become bitter. I've been praying for these answers, praying, God, would you help here? Would you help this? Would you help? And I either get no answer or I get a no. Like no answer is different to a no. And I become bitter against God, against people. Even people I don't know, I act bitterly. I'm harsh. I don't display any love to anybody. Even at the shops, I snap at people if something goes wrong at the checkout. I start to become bitter. When I was 12, I come from a family of 6 children. When I was 12, my dad lost his job. He got retrenched. Very intelligent man, an amazing man. And for 2 years, he couldn't get a job. Because he'd either go for the job and they'd say, oh, you're too old. At the age of 40, you're too old. Or he'd go and they'd say, oh, you're too overqualified. So we're not going to give you the job because you'd be taking my job very soon because you're more qualified than me and I'm the one employing you. It became very hard. I saw it as a child of 12 and I didn't even know the full circumstances. And I saw this disappointment after disappointment after disappointment could have made my dad harsh and bitter. But because of his relationship with God, because of the relationship with his wife and his children, but especially his wife who shared with him, who told him how wonderful a man he was, that this disappointment didn't change and turn to bitterness. It became a change of perseverance, of God will work this out. And I saw it in my dad, because at the beginning he was starting to get very harsh and very unloving, if you want to call it that. We have choices that we can make that disappointment doesn't turn into bitterness. That we throw ourselves upon our God. And if you don't know God, go throw yourself upon him. Because that's what he's there for. He's merciful and loving and kind. He doesn't want you to be bitter. He doesn't want you to walk around continually sad, angry, harsh. We know people like that. I wonder what disappointment they've had in their life for them to turn those feelings into that bitterness, that sour taste, that ooh, that we all don't like. That we all go, oh, I'm not going to go near him. Oh no, I'm not going to speak to him. Oh my goodness, that customer's coming in again. Let's quickly deal with him and get him out. I had people like that where I worked. We don't want to be like that reaction to people. We don't want that reaction to ourselves. God can come and help that disappointment, help. He can work miracles in our circumstances, just like in the Israelites. He can change the bitterness in the water He can change the bitterness that's in our hearts that can crush our spirit and ruin us forever. But not forever in God's eyes if we turn to him. God has the power to do so many things. There was a guy in the Old Testament, or in the New Testament, who had good friends. And this man was paralyzed. Was he paralyzed body? Yes. But was he paralyzed in his spirit too, maybe? Was he given up from disappointment, given up on life? Had he turned to being bitter and harsh, maybe? And his friends loved him so much, and they heard that Jesus was coming. And so they carry him to where Jesus was in this house. But there were so many people there, they couldn't get in. That didn't stop the friends. They opened up the roof, climbed up, heaved him up somehow, and lowered him down. And Jesus came and healed that man. But healed him physically, but also spiritually. Because at the beginning, Jesus said, your sins are forgiven. Get up and walk. Your sins are forgiven. What sin has this paralyzed man even committed to anybody? You know, he's in a bad way. Oh my goodness, people should be looking at him and looking after him. What has he done wrong? But maybe he became bitter and harsh. He had no belief or trust in God. Because it says Jesus turned to the four guys, his friends, and said, because of your faith, he has been saved. Not because of the paralyzed man's faith, because of the friend's faith. Because maybe this guy had given up, disappointed so badly. Life had treated him so badly. He was born, in a bad way, especially in those days, that's what they thought. And Jesus came and healed whole everything about him. He can do the same for us. Don't let disappointment turn into bitterness, but if it has, God can heal. He can change us back to being soft and loving and joy-filled and grateful for what we have and who we are. Psalm 23, the Lord is my shepherd. The Lord is my shepherd. He's my guidance. It's like we're the sheep, and he will lead us and help us. I shall not want. I'll never want. I'll never want for anything when I have him as my shepherd. Never. I might become disappointed because it's sometimes just our needs or our wants or our desires. But it'll never lead to bitterness because with Jesus as my shepherd, I'll never want. I'll have everything I really need. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in right paths for his name's sake. I love it. He makes me lie down in green pastures. If there's a green pasture there, which means good times, great circumstances, everything's going great, why does he have to make me lie down? Is it because sometimes I'm pig-headed, headstrong, want to do it myself? I don't see the green pasture maybe. I don't see where it's good for me. Or I got into such a place, such a disappointing place where I'm bitter about everything. Oh, they always get looked after. They've got it easy, so why are they complaining now? Our eyes don't see the green pasture that God has for us. So he makes us lie down. He walks us through those valleys of death, of disappointment. He walks with us. He restores our souls. He restores us. God sometimes brings us to a place where we need to choose, where bitterness could be bred. It could grow and develop. But he wants us to surrender our life, our circumstances to him. For only good can come from it, because he is good. Only good comes out of God. You know, there could have been with my dad, a natural slide of anger and disappointment into that bitterness. But my mum, my faithful mum, who loved her husband and loved her God, was there to whisper into his mind, to whisper into his heart, God's got this. God's got you. It's okay, I'm with you. The children are with you. It was still hard. They had to work out so many things of how are we going to survive a family of 6 kids. And back then, there was not handouts like there are now as much. They had to work out, what are we going to do to feed our family? God was the rescuing hand for my dad. God's grace transformed his state of mind, his mood, his motivation. Do you know he went back and did extra study? He was already qualified as an industrial chemist, and he went back and did extra study so he could support and look after his family. Part-time while he was still looking for work. He then got a job. So while he was doing this job, he was part-time studying so he could improve and help himself and his family. God made him refocus. You can't scrub the disappointment that happens. You know, I'm disappointed I didn't get on the basketball team. That's life. But don't let it stop you trialing out another team. Saying, well, where are my other gifts if I'm not going to get chosen there? Or maybe I'm not going to be an NBA player, but I'm going to be a great coach in a kids' basketball team where I can help develop them. There's so many different ways that you can use your talents. My dad had hope again. God can do the unexpected wherever you are, whatever the circumstances. Be confident in this. Trust. And be grateful. Be grateful for what we have. Lord, I'm in a place where I can rely on you. Lord, I'm the disappointments are just hard. And God would weep with you. He doesn't scrub it off. He's actually with you, comforting you, because he knows disappointment. People, his children who don't turn to him, he's disappointed, but he doesn't let it become bitter. How God then seeks out, how am I going to show them that I love them? How am I going to reach them? How am I going to care for them? He's always reaching and searching for us. You know, Moses could have been angry at the people and God, and he did. Oh Lord, I'm so frustrated. I need to help here. And God gave him a piece of wood that he threw into this water, and it turned from bitterness to sweet water. God can do whatever he wants to do if we ask him. If Moses had not asked God and just got angry at the people and said, that's it, I'm leaving you here, I'm walking out. How often do we feel like that? Moses got disappointed too. He said, God, these people are complaining. Would you help me out here? And God did. We've got to think of a different way. Not necessarily our way either, or our plan. We need to be open to God's way and God's plan, because it's only good. It is only good for us. He has the perfect plan for us, the perfect things. You know, I remember when I left school, I wanted to be a doctor. I was disappointed. I didn't get into med school. I became a pharmacist. But looking back, oh my goodness, it was the perfect job for me. I loved it. Talking to people, sharing health issues with people, sharing healing with people on a physical level, but because I cared on a spiritual level. And they shared with me. Oh my goodness, they shared not just medical problems, but they shared with me their heart. What an opportunity to love them. What an opportunity God gave me. And He knew the perfect job for me. And when I look back, disappointment that I had, God used and made. And I didn't become bitter. I worked with what I was given. God showed me to trust in Him and be grateful. Be grateful for what you have, what you've got, what God has got for you. Think of it, if I give you a gift and you don't say thank you or grateful for it, do I want to give you another one? God does do that. But He feels like that too. He sometimes withholds more gifts because He's like, they're not even grateful. But as soon as we turn to Him, it's like as soon as we turn around, as soon as we think He's there. Oh yes, great. I haven't been withholding it in a bad way. I've just been wanting to say, do they really want another one? Are they really wanting? Sometimes though, God's heart is so loving, even when we're not grateful, like a parent, we give again. Think of a child. I've got 10 grandchildren, or actually 9 and 1 on the way. And they come to me and they're a bit mean, and I'll go, that's not nice behaviour. But as soon as they say, sorry, Grammy, I'm okay, good. I'm making lunch. Would you like me to make you a sandwich? Because you have those hearts where you understand they're maturing and you understand they're still growing, but you don't get bitter about them treating you badly. I teach them and I love them and I want to love them even more. God's like that. God has the best for us. Don't let disappointment turn to bitterness. It can want to suffocate us because it just suffocates us and our life, our future life. He wants to rescue us. Stop. Be angry and then enough's enough. Draw a line in the sand and say, okay, today I'm moving on. Don't hold revenge. It says, let God be the judge. Let God bring righteousness to the earth, because He will judge accordingly. If I judge others, God's going to judge me the way I judge others. It says that. So don't let disappointment turn to bitterness. Await, trust, hope, work through, be grateful, and let God change the bitterness that can start to happen and make it sweet. Make us trust in Him more. Make us love Him more. My mum showed my dad. God showed my dad. And I'm sure Dad himself showed himself, no, I don't want to be like this. I want to be like this. So don't throw away the disappointments. They are there. But then move on. Look at who you are, what you want to be, who you are in God, what gifts you have. And allow God to show you how you can move on from disappointments in your life. Thank you for listening.